Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The show is about to begin.
Hi, I'm Jeremy, and with Terri, we're the co-CEOs of Harvest Earnings. And you can be a fly on the wall as we talk about business practices we love and even more fun, the ones we don't. Hey, Terri.
Jeremy.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. So tonight's, the great debate.
Great it's going to be, but we'll see.
Our quadrennial way in the search for the truth in political elections. So even though we don't know how the debate's going to go in terms of the candidates or politics, we know for sure that it is going to exhibit just about every bad behavior that should be used in the search for the truth. And the reason we're raising this has nothing to do with politics or the elections. It has to do with the fact that, unfortunately, we see a lot of these characteristics also used in companies as they are debating decisions they need to make.
Yes,
So what are some of those bad behaviors? Well, essentially, first of all, there are going to be deep, important subjects addressed in 30, 60, 90-second snippets. These snippets will have been sort of pre-rehearsed and pre-written to get across some point. Mostly the two people will be talking past each other. And to the degree they're listening to each other, it's not to learn and to dig deeper. It's going to be to come up with that snappy response that'll make the other person look bad or show that they made some mistake, and a mistake is just a terrible thing to make. It's set up to be more about personalities and how they unfold and what they appear to be like to various voters than it does about trying to get to the bottom of issues. And so it's all created to bring out kind of the worst in terms of problem solving and finding the truth.
Yeah, wow. That sounds like we're really screwed, basically. Although, just a moment on we're not going to talk politics, but if anybody has to make a decision based on tonight's debate, they have really not been paying attention.
Well, that's another thing, is that here's another prediction I'm going to make here. It's a bold prediction, but I'm going to make. I am going to say that the supporters of one candidate are going to say that candidate clearly won and did a great job. And that the supporters of the other candidate are going to say the other candidate did a great job and clearly won. Because, and this also happens in company decision making, in many cases, the audience's mind, who's ever listening to this debate, have already made up their mind and are already on team A or team B.
Yeah. And of course, in corporations, the one that people say did a great job and won the debate is usually the highest ranking person. Completely coincidentally, or corporate America does an absolutely perfect job of only elevating people with the best fact-driven decision making.
Yes.
Yeah, we know that's not the case. Yeah, so what we would recommend, here's a couple of things. First of all, and this seems like it should be very obvious, facts. Use facts, not opinions. Certainly not lies, not exaggerations, just as factual, as pure as you can be with that, which, is actually much harder than I think people think, because it's hard not to let your emotions, your desire to win cloud your judgment on things. So using facts, extremely important. Being clear about what you're trying to get across about those facts is probably even harder than using facts. I mean, there are a lot of people who really struggle to communicate. And one of the biggest crutches that people then fall back on is, of course, the PowerPoint presentation, which we use a couple of when we work with our clients in setup and in kickoff. And after that, we have a no PowerPoint rule, in part because it is actually not a good tool to communicate, and people use it to fill it up. They fill up slide after slide after slide with all sorts of stuff that only muddy the issues 9 times out of 10. They don't clarify it. And there might be a million numbers, and some of them don't make sense together, or just word salad, bullet point after bullet point, when really the important facts are this one and that one. and that's it. And the rest is just confusing to the listener. You want to talk about others?
Sure. Going to this communication issue, one of the biggest problems is often there isn't agreement about which there is agreement and disagreement. There isn't clarity about we agree on these things. Here's exactly where the difference is. So I remember sitting in some meeting where the head of commercial lending and the head of audit and someone in operations were having this vociferous debate about whether they were going to change what credit scores and all were used for some purpose. And it suddenly became clear to me that they were all arguing about something different, that they had assumed what this change was going to be. They had made 3 different assumptions about what that change was, and they were now vociferously arguing that. And when we were able to take it back and say, okay, well, do you agree on X? Do you agree on Y? Okay, it's Z that's the issue. Well, no, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. We thought you meant. So one is a narrowing and a specificity that's often very hard about what is it we're disagreeing. The second is, one of the reasons that PowerPoint is filled with numbers, as you said, is it gives the illusion of fact. Of course we're fact-based. How could you insult us and say we're not fact-based? We have a 30-page PowerPoint deck that's just filled with facts. Except that those facts are often not the relevant or clear facts having to do with whatever needs to be found out. You know that I always like to refer to that joke about the guy who's looking for his car, the guy who's drunk and he's looking for his lost car keys under the street lamp. And the police officer comes over and says, oh, you lost your keys around here, I'll help you. And the guy says, oh, no, I lost my keys over there. And the officer says, well, why are you looking here? Oh, the light's better here. So, a lot of...
I think in the story, the guy is drunk. Because do we really want to tell a story about a drunk guy looking for his car keys? And then the police officer helps him find them? There's something wrong.
Anyway, and so what happens is people, out of efficiency and speed and whatever, use systems and reports that already exist that shed light, but they don't shed light necessarily on the issue at hand. That might require some completely different research to figure out what it is. So one is narrowing and being specific about the issue of dispute. The second is first being very open-minded to see where do we agree on things. The third is this idea of either the devil's advocate or team blue and team red, but it's this idea that, and I think we talked about this in an earlier podcast with juries, instead of people taking a side and now arguing their side, it should be, let's all take one side and delve into it. And what are the pros and cons and evidence we have for that side? Now let's all take the other side and delve into the pros and cons of that other side, and not have this emotional stake in the ground where everyone has identified us with one position or another, which means that even if we change our minds, now we got to say to everyone, sorry, I spent the last 30 minutes of everyone's time arguing about this. I realize I'm wrong, which would be great. It's a lot better than sticking your heels in. No.
Digging your heels in.
Digging your heels in. It's not as good as first having very little emotional commitment to a position that it gives you the ability to maneuver as you learn and are open-minded about what someone has to say.
Yeah, well, I think also listening, you have to be open-minded while you're listening, but we have found, and certainly I think you said this about debates, you're listening for a gotcha, for the thing you can get them on and twist or whatever. I'm listening for lies, which is fine. But if you can listen with that open mind to see, first of all, what do we agree on, like you said, but also, are we even talking about the same thing? But people don't. Listening skills are really on the downslide. In some cases, I think if you have a team presenting, like you and I often do, as a pair, if somebody is assigned the role of listening, that can be useful. Obviously, it can't always be done. But somebody who is truly listening for what the other side is concerned about or what you agree on, it can be super helpful to coming to a good decision, to, winning the debate, so to speak.
Well, and of course, you are often that person when we present, because I have this tendency, as so many other people do, that when I'm listening, this is even when we're in pitching a potential client and I should be at my best. When I'm hearing an argument, I'm now going to what you call, captain of the debate team, and you do not mean it as a compliment. Where
In most cases, I do not. That is true.
where I'm trying to find a way to win the argument against this person, which never works. I can never win it, as opposed to trying to actually understand what issue are they concerned about, which might not be the one that they articulated in a particular way. When you and I visited the Disney Institute, which was super cool for anyone who's never been able to go to it, you should try. They talk about how, as you know, one of the most frequently asked questions in Disneyland or Disney World is people will say, "What time is the 3:00 parade?" And the staff are trained not to say, "Well, 3:00, you idiot," but rather to understand what they're really being asked is, where is it going to be at certain times and where's the best place to see it? And so they can say, well, though it starts there at 3, we really recommend at 3:15 you be at this one. Because they're listening to what the person's really asking.
Yeah, and we actually tested it. I don't know if you remember this, but I think
do.
we were eating at a restaurant in Epcot, and we asked the waiter what time are the 9:00 fireworks or whatever the equivalent was. And
Yeah.
darned if we didn't get the proper answer.
Yeah.
Well, they start at 9, but to get a good view, you should really be there by 8:45 at this spot.
So often when we are and of course we've witnessed, because the nature of the work we do, literally thousands of decisions being made, tens of thousands of decisions being made. And often someone raises a question because on the spot they haven't even themselves necessarily identified what's bothering them, but they know something has, and they want to get into it. And so they raise question A when they're just trying to slow things down and think about the issue. And then everybody jumps on question A and shuts them down, and that's it. But you haven't really gotten at what ails them, as the song goes. Then there was another thing. Oh yes, one of the things that we do to eliminate the need. Debate is very often in corporate environments, things are done as if it's a legal proceeding where there's two zealous advocates of different positions, and they are going to make their case to the judge, which is their boss or their boss's boss or somebody higher up, and they're going to present these two cases. We don't allow that. We make the two advocates have to come together and as a single unit look at the same facts together, decide what analysis should be done together, raise what issues. By the time they're done doing that, they are able to provide a consensus about what's known, what they're less certain of, what maybe open issues are. And so there isn't the adjudication of I got to pick a winner or a loser. But no, now there's a consensus. 99% of the time, they actually end up agreeing, these opposites.
I would also say that more often than not, it's a person going to their boss or a committee or whatever, asking for something that there isn't necessarily another side. So they're sort of, debating is a very loose word for it, but with the decision maker who maybe has no position at all. And I think all of these things still apply to just getting a request answered in the way you want, which is, of course, usually yes, but not always. And all of these things apply. So keeping it simple, using facts. We talk a little bit about emotion. Obviously, getting angry isn't useful, but sometimes being passionate is. And I think it will be tonight on the debate stage for our political candidates. But just keeping it clear and not muddying things with the junk is a way to be not only efficient, but get the answer you want. Well, maybe we should wrap it up.
Okay, let's wrap it up.
Win your debates, people.
Okay, bye.
Bye.